So how quiet is your tank? Well, today we're going to take a look at my tank and I'm going to give you some readings in terms of decibel. We're just going to take a look at how loud my tank is, and I'm going to give you some recommendation on how you can make your tank as quiet as possible. So we're going to start off with the top and work our way all the way down to the sump area. And just for reference, I am using this right here. This is an app, and it's using my microphone here to read the decibel reading in my surroundings. I've already went upstairs to take just a quiet room decibel reading, and I was getting about 23 decibels. My tank right now, the way it sits, it's about 40 decibel. I'm about 5 to 6 feet away from my tank, and that is the noise that it is producing. So I'm currently running the OR3 Orphic lights. These are the light bars. This is the 4 feet version. The good thing about these is that they have no fan in them, so they actually are fanless. They generate no noise at all. And then I also have the Radion's G6, and those are the XR30. I have 3 of them. They do come on, but very, very slightly you'll hear a hum every now and then, depending on how high I'm running the lights. But I rarely hear them because they are just way quieter than the other equipment in my tank. All right, so next up is the circulation pumps. I do have a Nero 7 running right here along with the Nero 5 right down here, and they are on both ends of the tank. The Nero 7 is actually louder if I mounted that directly onto this piece of glass, and it could be because the glass is thin, but it is a bit more noisier. But because I have it on this piece of plastic and it is fully inside the tank itself and it's about 1 inch off of the glass, it's actually pretty quiet. The Nero 5 is all the way down here, and because it's a smaller pump, I rarely hear it running as well. I'm trying to get a reading here of the pump, but because everything else is running, it is going to be hard to just capture that pump only, but this is what I'm getting right here. I'm at about 41 to 42 decibel reading right next to this pump here. Down here, I'm at 42 to 43 decibel with the Nero 5 all the way down here. And this pump is mounted onto this glass, so it is a bit more louder than the Nero 7, but again, that is expected. Now, one of the things with a tank that has a display and a sump at the bottom is the return design. And depending on how it's designed, it could be really loud or it could be really quiet. And in this case, the Red Sea and other tanks like the water box, they have a dual drain system where one drain is for the emergency overflow and the other drain is the main drain, and it's got a valve that is connected to that drain to silence the water that's coming down into the sump. So I have it dialed right now and it's running as quiet as possible. Now as we drop down here, the quietest component down here I'd say is the heater, which you really can't hear at all. And then next to that would be the return pump, which I have a J-Bow DC return pump, and it's just running at probably 30% of its power. So it's really, really quiet. And to get a decibel reading down here, this is what we have currently. About 43 to 44 decibel. And I'm about 3 feet away from the sump area. All right, so I have the skimmer turned off, and I'm going to take a measure here to see how loud the water is that's dropping into the filter socks. About 44 to 48 decibel. Then let me remove these filter cups, silencers here. Filter silencers are removed. So there it is. You can see it fluctuating. You can definitely hear that it's louder. Goes up to about 53 decibel. And this is definitely quieter as it drops down under 50 decibel. Sometimes hitting 51, but I think that is the max. Definitely quieter than without the silencer. The other thing I do have in here is the fan that runs, and I do have the fan running 24/7. It's on its lowest settings. There is two, I want to say 5-inch fans in the back that is pushing air into the bottom of the cabinet here, and then at the same time pushing air out of the cabinet to keep the moisture in here down and to ensure that the equipment in here lasts a long time. Without the fan, we are getting about, and I'm pointing this directly to where the fan is at, I'm about 1.5 feet away from the fan in the back. 46 to 48 decibel reading is what I'm getting without the fan turned on. Now with the fan turned on, I'm getting 48 to 51, 52 decibel reading. Last on my sump area is the skimmer, and the skimmer is probably the loudest equipment that I do have. But with some tweaks, I'm able to quieten it up a little bit. The other thing is that my skimmer is one that utilizes an AC pump, and so when I plug it in, it's pretty much running at maximum speed, and it's also louder than its counterpart when it's the DC version. With the DC version, you have the ability to control the pump speed, and so you also have the ability to make it run quieter, and at the same time the pump design in itself is quieter than the AC pump based on what I've noticed. The other thing is that I have a tube that goes outside, and that is to ensure that I'm getting fresh air outside and I'm not pulling air from within the house. That's to ensure that I get really rich oxygenated air from outside pulling into the skimmer, and that will help me with keeping my pH level up. And with that tubing plugged in directly to the skimmer, it actually helps to make the skimmer a bit more quiet. The silencer on the skimmer does help, but it only helps to a certain degree. And the one that I have here, the silencer actually broke. So right now I'm currently running the tube directly to the inlet of the skimmer, and that actually provides air directly to the inlet, and it's also much quieter than with the silencer by itself. All right, so here the skimmer is actually not turned on, but I'm going to turn it on and we can hear how the skimmer kicks up in sound. So that is the skimmer running. It is pretty quiet because I have the tubing set up the way I mentioned earlier, where it's going directly into the inlet. But let me just pull that off and you'll get a sense of how loud the skimmer is without that tubing plugged in. And that tubing is actually in the back over here. So that is how it sounds with the tubing removed. You can actually hear the water, kind of like the water gurgling. It's much quieter with the tubing on, but let's take a measure and see what the decibel reading is. About 58 decibel. 58 decibel with the tubing off. going up to 59. It's at 52 to 53 decibel with that tubing connected on. I'm about 5 to 6 feet away from my tank right now. The reading is currently about 42 decibel, but that's actually not too bad. I don't even have the doors on. If I threw the doors on, it'll be a little bit more quiet. If I was to go into a different room, it's now at 32 to 33 decibel reading. It's really hard to see that, but trust me, 32 to 33 decibel reading. So it's actually really quiet in this room over here. And when I come back into the living room where the tank is at, then it jumps up to about 40 some odd decibel. All right, guys, that is it. I just want to show you how I'm trying to keep my tank as quiet as possible by selecting the right equipment and by putting some silencer in the sock along with the tubing to the extra tubing to the skimmer to ensure that it's pulling air from outside. That kind of, helps with making the skimmer a bit more quiet. And I think overall the skimmer is the equipment that is the loudest. The other thing that's a bit annoying is water gurgling down the sock, which with this right here, the silencer for the socks, it's been working out great. All right, guys, let me know how loud your tank is and what other methods you have to help with getting your tank as silent as possible. All right, guys, thank you for stopping by and watching to the end. If you have any questions, feel free to drop them down below, and I'll see you in the next video. Thanks.